Ever wondered if you're saving enough money for retirement? Well, if so, a new book by Charlie Farrell, MoneyWatch.com's great retirement blogger. Read his retirement roadmap blog right here on CBS MoneyWatch.com. That book may be for you. It's called Your Money Ratios, 8 Simple Tools for Financial Security. Charlie, it's great to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Now, the premise of your book, that you can organize your financial life by ratios, draws a lot from business. Explain it.
Well, in the field of corporate finance and tax, we're always using financial ratios to assess the health of a company. And in the field of personal finance, I just started playing around with some ideas on personal financial ratios and wondering if I could develop a series of ratios that would make it easier for people to determine, are they living a healthy financial life and are they basically on track for retirement?
Okay, good. Let's talk about the keynote. The key ratio, which is the capital to income ratio. It tells you how much money you need to have saved to retire well.
Right. So the capital to income ratio is a ratio of your income to the amount of capital or financial assets that you have. And it tells you at every age where you should be. So let's just use a simple example. Let's say we have someone who is 40 years of age and they have $100,000 worth of household income. They should have financial assets, so assets in your 401k or your retirement plan or your savings account of about 2.4 times your pay. So that would be $240,000. And ultimately, the goal is to reach mid-60s with 12 times your pay in capital. And that puts you in a position to retire on about 80% of your pre-retirement income.
So how much do you have to save to stay on track?
So you need to save roughly between 12 and 15% of pay. So prior to age 45, you really want to be trying to hit 12% of pay every single year. And then after age 45, you'd like to step that up to about 15% of pay.
Good. All right. Well, what is it that keeps people from being able to stay on track, most of all?
Most of all, it's housing. That primarily people have taken on too much mortgage debt. And if you go back to the early 70s, the savings rate in America was somewhere between 10 and 12% of pay. And the average house cost about 2.1 to 2.2 times pay, which is roughly in line with my ratios. And what happened over the years is the cost of housing kept creeping up. 2.5 times pay, 3 times pay, 4 times pay. And when it goes to about 4 times pay, it begins to consume about 30% of your household income. So where did people get that extra, from roughly 15% of pay to 30% where their mortgages were? They just stopped saving. And so the mortgage has crowded out all of our other financial objectives. The goal of housing should be to buy a modest home that you can reasonably afford, where the mortgage is low enough that it allows you enough room in your budget to save 12 to 15% of pay, get it paid off by the time you're 65 so you have a rent-free place to live, which gives you far more flexibility to live off the returns of your financial assets in retirement.
That is another one of your principles, no debt in retirement.
Yes.
One of the most interesting ratios in your book is the investment ratio. You recommend a much more conservative portfolio than most people do. Why?
Well, because in general, people have probably been taking too much risk with their investment portfolios. So I recommend a basic mix of offense and defense, roughly about 50% stocks and 50% high-quality fixed income for the majority of your investment life cycle. And then at retirement, scaling back to about 40% equities and 60% fixed income.
So 50-50 stocks, bonds through
Right.
most of your life.
Yes.
Until you get into near your 60s.
And one of the reasons I do that is because once you understand how the capital to income ratio works and how important it is to build and protect your capital, you need to take a more conservative approach. So if you have a capital to income ratio of, let's say, 10 times pay at age 60, and you're primarily equities, and the stock market goes into a bear market, and you wake up a year later and find out that now you're at 5 times pay, you're not going to be in a position to retire. So a basic split between stocks and bonds provides you with enough offense to help outpace inflation and grow your assets over the years, but enough defense to protect your assets during bear markets. And we've had 50% declines roughly in 10 years, and that's about as much as you can say about the risk profile of the stock market, is that it's risky.
Okay, good. All right. Thanks, Charlie.
You're welcome.
And thanks for watching.